I don't know that Trump could have asked for a worse closing message by his campaign's top surrogate just days before the election.
We have to reduce spending to live within our means. And that necessarily involves some temporary hardship, but it will ensure long-term prosperity.
That Trump's agenda will cause hardship for the middle class, but that it's, quote, necessary. And this isn't just some random guy who supports Trump. Trump has already said that he would appoint Elon Musk to oversee a new government efficiency commission, which means that Elon's words are akin to policy. And his quote here wasn't a fluke. It supports Elon's other public mention of this issue. His response to a tweet that says, quote, if Trump succeeds in forcing through mass deportations, combined with Eli hacking away at the government, firing people and reducing the deficit, there will be an initial severe overreaction in the economy. This economy propped up with debt generating asset bubbles and artificially suppressed wages as a result of illegal immigration, markets will tumble. But when the storm passes and everybody realizes we're on sounder footing, there will be a rapid recovery to a healthier, sustainable economy. History could be made in the coming 2 years. To which Elon replied, sounds about right. So that we're clear, what Trump's top economic surrogate, Elon Musk, is suggesting here, again, just days before the election, is that markets will crash. In an election where the economy is the #1 issue, Trump's promise to you is that you will face economic hardship. Their words, not mine. Now, this is born out of Trump's plan, and I say that loosely considering Trump doesn't have plans. He has random synapses that fire and then words fall out of his face, and his supporters frantically try and form that smattering of errant thoughts into some semblance of a policy platform. His plan is to mass deport all undocumented immigrants, to extend the 2017 tax cut for millionaires and billionaires, and to put a blanket tariff on all imports. In other words, the plan is to eliminate over 10 million workers from our economy and the taxes they pay into it while deriving no benefit, to continue heaping tax advantages onto the ultra-rich and drying up federal revenues that actually pay for the programs that Americans rely on, and to impose a tax on all Americans by way of a tariff that will make all of our goods more expensive, because those tariffs aren't paid for by the exporting country, they are paid for by the importing company and then passed on to American consumers. And of course, Trump will backtrack and say that none of that will matter because the growth will be so big that you won't even feel the austerity measures. But he said that before. In fact, he said the exact same thing before he became president in 2017. And yet, when he took office, with full control of government to enact his policies, GDP growth in the first 11 quarters of Trump's presidency was the same during the last 11 quarters of Obama's presidency. And in fact, job growth actually slowed under Trump from where it was under Obama, and annual median household income also slowed by 3 times as much as where it was under Obama. And that was before COVID. That was when Donald Trump had full control of government and no pandemic, just a clear runway to enact the exact policies that he promised. He promised some unprecedented boom, and yet he couldn't even exceed that of his immediate predecessor. So when Donald Trump comes out now and promises the same thing, let's not have collective amnesia. We've heard these promises before, just like we've heard promises about building the wall across the southern border when all he managed was 52 miles of wall. He promised Mexico would pay for it, and yet they didn't pay a dime. He promised there would be a jobs boom, and there wasn't. We had a net jobs loss from when Trump was president. He promised there would be a manufacturing renaissance, and instead, he presided over a net manufacturing job loss. He promised an infrastructure plan, and that became the joke of his administration. He promised a healthcare plan that was more comprehensive and less expensive, and to this day, this guy has no healthcare plan whatsoever. He just says words that he thinks sound nice, but bear no relationship to reality. And yet, if he does enact this plan, experts are calculating that these policies will cost as much as $15 trillion over a decade, all thanks to the party of fiscal responsibility. An analysis published last month by the nonpartisan Peterson Institute for International Economics projected that Donald Trump's policies would increase inflation and slow economic growth. They found that his plans would be particularly damaging to U.S. manufacturing and agriculture, particularly if American trading partners respond with their own higher tariffs, which, by the way, they will. Because that's exactly what happened when Trump launched a trade war against China the first time. He was forced to use federal funds to make farmers whole after his trade war backfired on them, literally borrowing from one hand to pay the other. He was an idiot on the economy then, and he's an idiot on the economy now. Only his plan would be fundamentally worse and would hurt all Americans who aren't in the same economic tax bracket as Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Which is probably why, when asked about exactly that, here's what Trump had to say.
And he's a great cost cutter. You've seen that. And he said, I could cut costs without affecting anybody.
So he will be in the cabinet?
Not in the cabinet. He doesn't want to be in the cabinet. He just wants to be in charge of cost cutting, who have a new position, Secretary of Cost Cutting, okay? Elon wants to do that. And we have incredible people. He's running a big business. You know, he can't just say, oh, I think I'll go into the cabinet. You know, other people can. He can't. But Elon's a little bit different in that sense.
Without affecting anybody. He said something almost identical to Sean Hannity. Quote, he feels there's such waste, fraud, and abuse in our budgets, and he's right, and he's a great cost cutter, and he'll cut costs without anybody even knowing it. Nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna feel it. He will cut costs, and he feels he can save $2 trillion. If he does that, our budget is more than balanced. Nobody's gonna know without affecting anybody. So let's get this straight. Trump thinks he can cut $2 trillion from the federal budget, a third of our entire budget, and no one will be affected? No one will feel it? Or is it just that people will absolutely feel it, but not people like Trump and Elon Musk and the wealthy Republican lawmakers and senators who absolutely don't need Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, who don't need food stamps, who don't need veteran health care, who don't need firefighter funding, who don't need education funding? People will feel it, I can promise you that, but those people aren't the rich. They are everyday Americans who rely on these programs to survive, to eat, to stay safe, and to get the preparation they need to remain competitive in today's world. All of that goes away if Trump and Elon's plans go through. And you don't have to look far for confirmation of exactly that. Here's Mike Johnson just days ago.
There's a lot of talk. I mean, healthcare reform is going to be a big part of the agenda. When I say we're going to have a very aggressive first 100 days agenda, we got a lot of things still on the table.
No Obamacare?
No Obamacare. Yeah, the ACA is so deeply ingrained. We need massive reform to make this work, and we got a lot of ideas on how to do that.
Quote, no Obamacare, we need a massive reform to make this work. That means the only law protecting you from being denied health coverage for pre-existing conditions, the only law ensuring that young people are covered until they're 26, that goes away. Why? Because the ultra-wealthy do not care. They're covered, and their coverage isn't at risk. But the 50 million Americans who rely on the ACA, that's what's on the chopping block. To them, your healthcare is the government waste that they need to eliminate. Your Medicare and Medicaid is the waste they plan to eliminate. Your Social Security is the waste they plan to eliminate. If it doesn't help the rich, they are not interested in preserving it. Now, there are a few reasons why Trump and Elon are now working hand in hand. First, Trump benefits from Elon's cash infusion. That's all Trump is interested in right now. Remember, Trump has no long-held principles or beliefs. He just wants money right now so he can run ads and become president. Period. Simple as that. Elon is the richest person in the world. He is that cash infusion. Now, from Elon's perspective, his side of the quid pro quo is preserving the tax cuts, which overwhelmingly favor the rich. And as the richest person in the world, he stands to benefit the most. This isn't about any convictions on his end either, other than a relentless desire to hoard as much money as humanly possible. There's also another benefit for Elon, which Mark Cuban laid out here during our most recent interview. I gotta ask you this about Elon, because this is what kind of blows my mind. If you are the CEO of an EV company, and your audience, presumably people who buy EVs because they have some semblance of an understanding about climate change or whatever it is, how does that make sense from a business perspective to go all in to basically not only abandon your core market, but then throw your weight behind a political party for whom climate change isn't even a real concern?
Because having the power to manipulate the most powerful man in the world is far more valuable than any amount of EV sales from Tesla. If you're the wealthiest person in the world and you have control, effective control, you're the puppet master of the president, oh my God, that's about as intoxicating. That is the definition of power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely.
And there it is. So both of these billionaires stand to benefit here. Trump wants power and Elon is helping him get it, and Elon wants his own type of power, of which Trump is a vehicle. And let's be clear, neither of these guys are worried about the working class. Both of these are outspoken opponents of unions and workers' rights. Both refuse to pay contractors and workers. Trump will cosplay as a McDonald's employee while refusing to support an increase to the minimum wage that those McDonald's employees themselves get. The extent to which these people are not only not supportive, but openly hostile to the very people they're pandering to cannot be overstated. Right now, in front of us is the warning. We won't get another one. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.